just past 1 o'clock. Thank you guys for joining today's webinar for managing progress, timelines and tasks in PPO. My name is Taryn. For those of you who I don't engage with, I've been at PPO for a while now. I'll be moderating today's session with the support of Lindy, our support manager, who I believe most of you would be familiar with. Just a few housekeeping rules. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all attendees. We'll be taking questions at the end of the session, but the chat is available for questions. Both Lindy and I will keep our eye on the questions that are posed throughout the session. So please feel free to post your questions. We'll take note of those, keep them for the end, and depending on the nature of your questions, we'll either reach out to you after the session if we don't get a chance to cover all of the questions in today's session. Also keep an eye out for a couple of polls which we'll be launching throughout the session. And I think we've still got quite a few people still coming in. I will quickly just introduce you to Daniel. So with all of that housekeeping out of the way, our presenter for today's webinar is Daniel. He's our PPO technical support consultant. Daniel has been with PPO for 5 years and is one of our highly skilled technical resources. So Daniel, over to you. I'll continue admitting people into the session, but I don't want to waste too much time, just in case we don't have enough time to cover all of our topics.
Perfect. Thanks, Darren, for that introduction. And good day, everybody. To get things started, excuse me, I just want to minimize there. To get things started, I've shared my screen and Taryn's going to be launching our first poll in the Teams group, so watch out for that. The poll is geared just to get an understanding of your level of comfort around today's topics or your level of understanding. So answer that poll. I see the poll's just gone up. You've got 4 choices. I'm completely green. I have some basic knowledge, solid background, or you're an expert. If we do go, and I mean, it's the purpose of the poll is just to understand your level of comfort. If we do go a little bit fast throughout the webinar, like Taryn mentioned, please don't be scared. Jump into the chats, ask your questions there. We can also cover something at the end, or there's going to be a few articles that are posted throughout the webinar. Keep your eyes out for that as well. Okay, so to get started, we're going to talk about the outputs. It's always a good understanding it's always good to have an understanding as to your hard work, whether you're on the ground or whether you're reviewing a set of projects, to understand where all of that hard work on your schedules is going to. And we're going to be focusing on 4 reports / dashboards, so 2 dashboards and 2 reports. The first dashboard we're looking at is what we call our portfolio view. It's a great consolidated view per project that highlights for us some basic project information like the status, the phase, the name of the project and who the project manager is, but importantly, some status information on our project, i.e. the health, whether it's green, going well, it's red, going really badly, or it's amber, there's some risks and we can, mitigate it before some impacts. In addition to the project health, we have the planned progress percentage, the actual progress percentage, and the variance percentage. These 3 calculations, or these 3 columns, are driven off of your schedule. So it's a point of your schedule, one of 2 points that we're focusing on today, that gets used and reported on in dashboards, and that is progress updates on your schedule. So we create the schedule, we get it in PPO, we add it in PPO, we need to report on the progress thereof, and we do that in a single line item, consolidated view as an example on our portfolio view. In addition, we start to mix some worlds. So we've brought in some cost information from your cost records, and I want to focus on percentage spend. Because on a one line item, you can get a view for the project, i.e. I would question the sales recovery pilot project being marked as green. What I'm seeing is the actual progress is 17%. Yes, we are behind on progress by 33%, but we've already spent 44% of our project budget. So a nice consolidated one line item view for a project. Now this can be viewed for a group of projects, or perhaps a portfolio of projects, maybe projects assigned to a specific sponsor or owner, and it gives you that one line item. But what we're focusing on is that progress part, that progress updates. And that's the one element you need to be, or one of the two elements you need to be aware of when you are creating your schedule, whether you're a team member on the ground updating tasks to drive that progress updates and reflect it on a portfolio view or a one line item. The second element is the structural element of your schedules. If we move over to the next dashboard, which is our portfolio dashboard, this dashboard covers various elements within PPO. So various project related entities. We've got some health indicators. Again, we're bringing in some costs, but what I want to focus on is the portfolio timeline section. Now you can drill through to view all. So instead of just viewing the top 10, you can view more than the top 10. But what this is highlighting to us is we've got a gap. These are demo projects. We've got a gap here. 3 projects don't have a schedule. So that's a good thing that we've highlighted already. The second thing is those that do have a schedule, we are picking pieces from that schedule based on the structure. So this blue bar that we're looking at in the timeline is drawn using the start date of your project task. For those that don't know, a project task encompasses the entire duration of your schedule, i.e. from start of the project to the end of the project. In addition to this blue bar, we are indicating these black diamonds, which are our milestone. I've hovered over the last one, which is a project complete milestone. And these milestones are, specific points or important points within our schedule that we want to report on and, say we've successfully achieved it, whether it be the completion of the project in totality, perhaps meeting a deliverable that you've got steps in order to meet that deliverable, or completing a phase within your schedule if you're doing phase-based planning. So those two elements, one, the progress of your schedule, and 2, the structure of your schedule are important to take note of, especially when you're looking at the outputs from the projects within your system. Okay, so excuse me, if we go back to the portfolio view and I use the drill through. So the drill through on the Northern Frontier Marketing project takes us through to the project manager dashboard. This project manager dashboard, or what's commonly known as a status dashboard, has the ability to show us a set of tasks. Now, if you manually run it, you can filter the set of tasks that you want to display. The drill through gives us all tasks. And again, we're highlighting this top line item is our project task. Execution monitoring and control is a summary task that comprises of another summary task called consumer analysis that comprises of tasks and a milestone. So there's that structural element that we're using within your status dashboard. Now, a summary task is, simply put, a set of tasks to achieve a particular objective. Normally, or good practice is, at the end of a summary task, you have a milestone. Now that milestone is achieved through tasks. Tasks, as you'll notice, are assigned to Alan, in this case, are our workhorses. They're what drive the completion of summary tasks. They drive the completion of our project in totality. So we need to assign them to individuals so we can get those progress updates through on our schedule. Those in turn update our progress calculation and allow us to mark off these structural elements and meet milestones. In addition, we're showing some planning start dates.
Hoorie, ek sien nou,
We've
ek het nou
got the
teruggegaan
actual
hè. Daai
start date
7.2 wat ons vir
and we've
die
got the
PPO
planned end
verklaar
date.
het.
All right, in addition to, let me just recap that quickly. We've got the planned start date, we've got the actual start date, the planned end date, and again, we've got those progress calculations. These progress calculations are what the users are entering and what's coming through on your schedule updates. They're not the roll-up calculations that you see on this view. And we're going to jump into more detail as we go through the webinar. If we move over to the reporting side, we see a similar view that we saw on the project manager dashboard. And that is we have some structural elements. So we have the project task. This time we've included the type, which allows us to quickly see this is a project task, this is a summary task. We've got the responsibility column. We're going to harp on that a little bit throughout today's demonstration as it's important from an ownership perspective. In addition to responsibility, we've got some planning information. So where we plan to be with our tasks, where we plan to start with our tasks, when we plan to end with our tasks, where we actually are, what our actual start date, actual end dates, and estimated end dates are. But you might stop me and ask, okay, but Daniel, where's the baselining information? And that talks to the last reporting output I want to go over, and that is the task variance report. Now, the task variance report is used to help us measure some slippage or some form of slippage on our schedules. Now, how you baseline a project, Taryn's busy putting in a link in the chats just to the article on baselining. In that article, there's actually a great 5-minute video that you can watch if you want to understand a little bit more. Simply put, you just enter a date as to when you baselined your project, and then PPO has calculations, baseline start, baseline end, that it will derive for you. Now, a baseline is important for a stakeholder to be able to, put a flag in the ground and protect themselves to be able to measure if the project slips, by how much it slips, so that you can start to put measures in place to address the impacts of that slippage. This example that we have here, the cost to income ratio project, slipped by 5 days, i.e. it started 5 days late, sorry, and therefore is going to end 5 days late. Now, it's a small slippage. Well, depending on what environment you're in, 5 days could be a large amount of slippage, but the purpose of the variance reports or the task variance report is to be able to measure and provide that visibility of the slippage so that you can make the necessary decision to adjust the schedule, maybe include an additional resource and manage that impact. If you can't manage the impact and you're pushing your project end date, or you're going to go over budget, whichever the case may be, it's always good practice to have a scope change that talks to that impact, why we slipped, what the impacts are, and how we're going to manage that. Okay, so I spoke about it quite a bit in the project manager dashboard and the task progress report, and that is the responsibility column. Now, the driving force between how we get these updates into PPO, how we report on them, how we build schedules, is through collaboration. Now, collaboration is one of the 3 important pillars that PPO was built on. So to facilitate collaboration, we talk about ownership. Right? You need to have some form of ownership on a record, whether that be a project, whether that be a benefit, whether that be a task. You have that ownership portion. And how we facilitate that in today's topic, we're talking about projects and tasks, is on a project, you have a project manager who's taken ownership of the project and delivering the project itself. That ownership also carries through to the tasks for the schedule. So each task within the schedule has that sense of ownership, and you can, apologies, each task has that sense of ownership that is assigned to an individual, and that individual can come in and update the particular task. For example, we have a task assigned to Barry Lineker, this review and revise. Barry Lineker can log in via his homepage. Just to go back, this homepage is serving as a collaboration mechanism. It's your to-do list or your whiteboard on the fridge. When you log in, you have all the items assigned to you where you are the owner, or you are responsible to a degree for that particular task or benefit or project. So because this is on Barry Lineker's homepage, he can drill into the task, he can edit the task, he can reassign it to somebody else, he can mark his progress as 50% and give himself or provide some form of progress feedback as to, this is what he's achieved, this is what he's planning to achieve. And on the back end of that, when he clicks on submit, the project manager could receive a notification. Now, this talks to another point of collaboration, how we facilitate that. Is through our business rule engine, we can notify individuals on a project based on events. So the event is a task being updated, send an email notification through to the individual that updated it, i.e. who's responsible for it, and the project manager. You can even notify the owner or the sponsor if need be. So that notification engine is also one of the driving factors, or sorry, one of the ways in which we facilitate the collaboration aspect of PPO. Now, jumping into, I think, the reason why a lot of people have joined the call, and that is the methods in which we use to bring our schedules in. And first off, there's a perception that you can't add tasks manually in PPO, or it's not easy to add tasks manually in PPO. So I'm going to debunk that perception or that misperception. So I've gone through to my project list page. I've got a demo project called Project 1 that has no tasks present on the project. I can simply click on add. We're going to go through some of the details, and then I'm going to show you even quicker ways of building your schedule or adding it manually within PPO. So I'm first going to start off by saying I want to create a task to produce a project management plan. You can define a description, your quality criteria, but what's important is I'm going to assign this to Alan Werner. I've got that ownership, that collaboration aspect that I'm going to use to complete this project. It's currently, sorry, not this project, this task. Currently, there's no actual progress reported on it. We're going to set the start date to start today and the end date to start, the end date to complete tomorrow. No planned progress on the item as yet. Watch out for planned duration. When I say watch out, I just want to say keep note of it because we're going to come back to this field. It's very important. The next field is our allocation percentage field. Now, the allocation percentage field alludes to how we can start to tie pieces of information from various entities together. So I can generate planning. We have a resource that is defined to work and produce a PMP or project management plan between the two dates, today and tomorrow, at a percentage of 100%. Yes, realistically, Alan wouldn't be spending 16 hours on producing a PMP, or he might do, perhaps, but this allocation percentage allows us to generate planning heat maps to get an understanding of resource allocation based on tasks that are being added onto the project. So when you generate planning, you can generate that resource planning view and generate heat maps across your employees or across projects. The last field that we're going to talk about just briefly is the type. I'm sure you've guessed it. These various types is how we create the structure within our schedules. So you have the project task, just to recap, that encompasses the full duration of the project. You have a summary task that comprises of tasks and milestones. You have tasks, which are your workhorses that are assigned to individuals. And then you have milestones, which are important deliverables or points in the project that we want to report on or say that we've achieved something in particular. In this case, I'm going to be adding a task and I'm going to submit. So what we've done is we've simply created one task on our project, but that's not good enough. We need a little bit more. So I'm going to show you an easier way. Instead of going through that add page that we went through, I can use a multiple edit. So I'm going to select the first record, go into a multiple edit page, select the record itself, and duplicate the record. This time we are approving the PMP, and Barry Lineker is going to be approving the PMP. It's also a task that we are adding, and we cannot set the dates to the same date because we need to approve the PMP after it's been created. So I'm just quickly going to change the dates. There I've created another task in a couple of seconds assigned to a different individual with a different set of dates. But now let's talk a little bit about structure. So I can go and edit the tasks again. I want to create a summary task that encompasses everything called planning. And I want to create a milestone that says planning complete. So there I've just created 2 additional tasks. Because this is a summary task, we don't need to add any responsibility, neither for the milestone. Don't forget to go and change the type to a summary task and the last one to a milestone. I can submit. Now I'm making mistakes to show you how easy it is to come in and edit. So you'll notice our sort order, everything is 0, our dates are incorrect. Now on the sort order front, you've got 2 options. You can use the action sort tasks, or you can use the multiple edit page. While we're in the multiple edit page, we can adjust our dates for our summary task. So it starts on the 18th and finishes on the 23rd, because apologies, not the 23rd, we actually want the 20th, and our milestone is going to be the 20th. Now we can set the sort order, so we can say this one's 1, this one's 2, this one's 3, and this one's 4. Right, so what we've created is a structured schedule that has 2 tasks on it assigned to individuals with a milestone at the end. I can now view this in a Gantt chart. Very basic Gantt chart. If I zoom in a little bit, we have our summary task at the top and 2 tasks driving the completion of our summary task and a milestone at the end. Now, if I go to the project itself, you'll notice that we have our plan progress calculations, our project progress calculations, plan progress, actual progress, and variance. They're all reflecting 0. Taryn's going to be linking an article in the chat that details how these calculations work. But to summarize it for everybody on the call, there are 2 important aspects that one needs to consider when it comes to your project progress calculations. The first is you need to have tasks of type task, the workhorses that drive the completion of the schedule within our project. So we've met that requirement. The second is our duration. We need to have a duration value. So again, I'm going to go into a multiple edit page, and I'm going to set the first task to 2 days duration and the second task to 1 day duration. If I go back to my project view page, scroll up to our calculations, now you'll notice that we have 37% that's reflected in our planned progress. These calculations are real time. So if we were to log in and view these calculations tomorrow, the value will change. Every time you refresh the page, because it's real-time calculation, it will refresh that calculation and display the new value for you. It might not change if you refresh it like every 3 seconds, but it does change throughout the day. Hence why we're showing 37% planned progress when our task is starting today. So we're roughly 37% done with the day, hence why we can say that's where you plan to be. Now, if we were to say I was Alan Werner, I clicked on the task and I updated the progress to 50%. I clicked on submit. Now, if we go back to the project view page, you'll notice that our actual progress percentage has jumped to 33%, meaning we're 4% behind. So you could do those updates in a multiple edit page if you wanted, but those are the important, or the 2 important aspects to your plan progress, actual progress, and variance calculations. Make sure that there is a type of task, or you have tasks of type task, and that those tasks have a duration value. Now, you might find it beneficial to consider alternatives when creating these schedules in PPO. For example, you have training projects or projects where you're planning events, and those schedules repeat. The only thing that differs is who's assigned and perhaps the dates of the tasks, but the structure remains the same. So it's a repeated schedule for each training project or each event project. We have the ability to use template projects to create that template. So when you add a new project of a specific type, you copy that template over to your new project. So that's one way that you could perhaps automate it, save on a little bit more time if you find you are repeating a schedule. In addition, with the planned duration, and I know it comes up quite often, and that is, the values aren't filled in there. You can implement a business rule that auto-populates the planned duration. So it just simply says what's the date difference, excluding public holidays and weekends, between two dates, start dates and end dates, and automatically populates your duration in your task. This can be implemented with a yes/no field on the project entity. So when you say yes, then it auto calculates, or for a specific type of project. So there's ways in which you can make it even faster or more convenient dependent on your environment. You can quickly build a schedule within PPO and report on its progress. Now, the manual edition of schedules within PPO are perhaps better suited for environments that don't have strong scheduling skills. The individuals don't have strong scheduling skills, or the environment is not as mature as they would like to be. So, or perhaps they don't have MSP, or the projects are smaller in size. So, dependent on your environment, you choose in which way you want to bring your schedule, build your schedule, and report on it in PPO. For those environments that are a little bit more mature, or the scheduling skills within the environment are higher, we have what we call MSP imports. All right, so to switch over to MSP, we have put together a template just to walk through. Again, MSP allows you to create that structure, line item 0 being our project task. We've got summary tasks. You'll notice the same as our example that we used for manually adding tasks. And we've got milestones. We've got a duration column based on our start date and finish date, and you can do what they call duration-driven scheduling within your MSP template. In addition, you have the predecessors, so one task follows after the next. You have a resource name column, very important, and you have a planned progress percentage calculation. Now, this is a custom calculation. Taryn's going to be linking an article on how to implement this custom calculation into your MSP sheet. If you are a PMO or an EPMO and you have project managers building schedules within MSP, create a template if you haven't already, and introduce the planned progress percentage calculation so that they don't have to do it on their schedule every time they create a new schedule. It's done for them. So just a point of advice, put that in a template, give them access, so that just makes things easier for them going forward. Lastly, we have the percent complete column, which just indicates to us how far complete we are with a particular task. But what I want to focus on in today's session is PPO's bidirectional integration with MSP. And how we facilitate that is through the MSP add-in. Now, Taryn's going to be, I think Taryn's going to be posting a lot of articles today. Taryn's going to be posting another article on how to install your add-in. Simply put, you need to determine whether your MSP version is 32-bit or 64-bit. Once you've installed your add-in, then you have a ribbon that pops up at the top and an update from PPO button. But before we use it, let's set up our situation. So currently we want to assign resources to these top two tasks. And our resource sheet is currently empty. Now, don't go and manually add the resources yourself. It might get a little bit complicated, or you might battle with phonetics keys, or it's going to take you some time to populate a resource sheet. So what we've done with the add-in is allowed you, or given you the ability to save on time in populating your resource sheet. So how you do that, how you use the add-in, is you simply click on the add-in ribbon, click on update from PPO. You then get this pop-up window where you need to enter your PPO instance. So this is your URL that you use to log into PPO. You enter your username, which you use to log into PPO, and your password. So I'm just quickly going to grab my password here and paste it in there. Now I'm going to click on connect. Now watch at the bottom, we're waiting for a status of done. It's getting a list of projects, and now it's done. So we've officially connected to the PPO instance called Daniel Demo. If you do get any error notifications, there's a log file. Take a screenshot, log a support ticket. We're happy to help assist with the error and troubleshoot the error from the support desk side. But what we want to do is we want to import resources. So we've got that done status. We're going to click on import resources, and we're simply going to click on import. What's happening now is the add-ins going and pulling all 19. In your scenario or in your environment, you could have 200, you could have 600 employees, a little bit more than the 19. But it's gone and pulled all 19 of those resources. And if I close the add-in and go to my resource sheet, I have now populated my resource sheet. I didn't have to go and manually add them one by one. If there are changes to your resources, you can remove the resources here and re-import them again, but you don't have to manually add them one by one and perhaps battle with phonetics keys. Okay, so we've now created our resource, or we've imported our resources so we can assign them to the task. Again, driving that ownership perspective. So I'm going to assign the production of the PMP to Alan and the approval to Barry Lineker. Now we're ready to import our schedule. But before I go there, I just wanted to make note. I skipped over it earlier on with the plan progress percentage. If you have opened the MSP file, or sorry, you haven't opened it in a while, and you need to work on your schedule, don't forget to go to your project ribbon and just calculate the project, just so that the calculation refreshes. There you'll note it went from 61 to 62%. That could be different dependent on when last you opened the MSP file. Okay, so we're ready now to import our MSP file. So I'm just going to save it, and I'm going to go through to PPO. On my project list page, we have a project called Project MSP. And on the project view page, we have the task entity that's displayed. Under the actions icon, we have an import tasks action. Now this action, for the moment, wink wink nudge nudge, is only available on your project view page. The reason being is it guarantees that you are importing your schedule into one and only one project. So do yourself a favor, just make sure you're importing it into the correct project. Otherwise, the project manager might send you an email with some exclamation marks and some shiny red text because you imported your schedule into the wrong project. We also display the project name on the Import Task Wizard view page. In addition to that, we have a file selector. You can drag and drop, or you can click, browse, and select your file. But below that is our mapping. So what PPO field is mapped to what project plan field, i.e. what field in MSP does it map to. Once you're ready to import, you click on click here and you go and select the file, and then you click on import. Don't worry, you don't import the file immediately. You first get taken to our summary page. Now, our summary page highlights information from your schedule. It highlights information from the tasks within PPO on the project MSP, and what action is going to be carried out. So currently there's no tasks within our project. So the action is simply just add 38 tasks. I'm going to click on submit, and what's happening is we're importing that schedule into our project. We have the structure, and now we can start to drive those progress updates. So Barry Lineker can come in, perhaps he's jumped a bit ahead and started approving the PMP, but he can come in, he can edit the task, and he can update that progress with 50%. Again, bearing in mind, we can use the notification engine to push an email through to the project manager, to the individual responsible, or any other stakeholders listed on the project itself. But now everybody's gone, and throughout the weeks they've gone and updated their tasks with progress feedback, perhaps adjusted dates. And now what you want to do is you want to come to your MSP schedule, and you want to import all of that, all those updates that the users have been making on their tasks from PPO. So what you can do is you can use that bidirectional integration, the add-in. I'm going to click on update from PPO. Let me just get my password here quickly. Paste it in there. I'm going to click on connect, and I'm going to wait for that status of done. There's our status of done. So our next step is we want to import, or we want to update the tasks in MSP. So I click on update tasks. Make sure you have selected the correct project that you want to pull the updates from, i.e. project MSP. Then before you click on update, go and look at your task field mapping. So you can map any field from PPO on the task entity with any field in MSP. So we're going to be pulling the actual progress percent updates from PPO, and we're going to be updating the percent complete field, which is this column over here, just named differently. This is the field name, or the backend name of the field in MSP. So we're pulling information from actual progress, and it's going to be populated within percent complete, this column over here. So I'm going to go back to update tasks because we've made sure of our mapping. I'm going to click on update. Now it's pulling all that information through from the task entity and updating the 30 tasks. So if I close that tab, you'll notice, that window, you'll notice that 50% that Barry Lineker updated on that task is now pulled through. Okay, so the concept, or common concept, that we're trying to display is saving on time. So whether it's adding manually, whether it's in MSP, your resource sheet, pulling updates that users are updating on the system. And another way to save time, and perhaps this it's kind of in between, you don't necessarily have the strong scheduling skills, maybe you don't have access to an MSP license, or maybe it's not a small project or not a large project. We have the ability to use an Excel import. So Taryn's going to be linking an article on how to get access to the Excel import, specifically the templates. What's important in that article that I want to cover is there's a link to how you download your resources. Okay, so simply put, you run a report from PPO, which gives you an Excel extract. You then copy that data and you come in and paste it into this resource sheet. What that then allows you to do is on your resource column, select the resources. And to recap, we have the structure element. So we have the name and the type of task, project task, summary task, task and milestone. We have the start date, we have the finish date, and we have a notes column. We've spoken about the resources. So we want to assign producing a PMP to Alan Werner, and we want to approve it through Barry Lineker. So there we've assigned resources to our workhorses, or the items that drive the completion of the project. And lastly, we have plan progress and actual progress. So the plan progress column in the Excel template isn't calculated. However, with that said, you can make it calculated. This is a similar version or the same schedule, just with additional calculations. The orange areas are areas that you can update. So I can change the initial start date of the project. This could actually also, it could work well with your training projects if the structure is the same or slightly different, and sometimes you need to make adjustments. You don't want to use template projects. You could use an Excel template that you've put together with some calculations. But to demonstrate, I can go and change and watch the plan progress, because the plan progress here is calculated. I can go and change the start date of the project to be the 11th. Now the calculation is updated that all of these tasks should be completed because we are past the 17th of May. All right, so you can calculate plan progress percentage on your Excel template. You can also implement duration-driven scheduling. So let me just move this back to the 17th. I can go and indicate that this task is actually 3 days long. What's happening is when I indicate it's 3 days long, it adjusts all subsequent tasks. It adjusts the summary task and the finish date of the project. So you've got plenty of options available when you're working with an Excel template. These columns that you see in the template that Terence linked in the article are mapped through an XSD. And that talks to how we import our Excel files into PPO. And the important thing to note is we need to save as a particular we need to save as a particular file type. And the file type we want, it might be a bit small on screen. The file type we want is XML data. Don't go and select XML spreadsheet 2003. You need to select XML data. Okay, so once we've selected the file type, we give the file a name and we click on save. It's going to give you a warning that you're going to lose your formatting and your pictures, but we're not interested in the formatting and the pictures. We're interested in the data itself. So I'm going to say proceed or continue, and I'm going to go back to PPO, to my project list page, and grab our project Excel demo project. Going down to the task section, I can click on import tasks. Again, you click on the file, you click here, and then you select the file, click on open, and then I can go to the import summary page. It's a smaller schedule, so it's 15 items. The action that PPO is going to carry out is 15 tasks will be added. I can click on submit. And now my schedule has been created within PPO. And I can view the Gantt chart for that schedule, whichever the case may be. Going back to the task list, or actually specifically going back to our Excel import, I can go and mark 2 of these tasks as completed. I can then save as a specific file type, XML data. I'm just going to date this one with it's the 18th of May. Don't forget to upload your schedule as a document on your project should somebody else need to make changes to it or view it, or you go on sick leave, whichever the case may be. So make sure you upload your schedule as a document on your project. Okay, so we've just updated those 2 tasks to 100%. We've created the file that we want to import. So I can go back to my project view page. I can click on actions, import tasks, select the file. You can also drag and drop the file if you prefer that mechanism. I'm going to click on import, and now you'll note something different. So PPO has picked up there are 15 tasks within your schedule. There are 15 tasks within PPO, and 15 of them match. So we're going to be updating 15 tasks. So the update also starts to talk about the delete function. So if you delete a task in your MSP schedule or in your Excel schedule, and you come to the import page and you go through the summary, you'll get a list of tasks that PPO needs permission to delete. So if you give PPO permission, we'll delete the task for you. Otherwise, we won't delete the task. If I click on submit, you'll note that we now have 13 tasks. A common question that comes up is, I had 15, I've ran my latest imports and I've only got 13. And the reason being is because of the global filter. The global filter on a task entity is set to hide tasks that are actual progress 100%. What that means is work that's been completed, we're simply hiding behind a global filter toggle. Now that toggle can be switched on and off on reports and dashboards, on the task list page. So we're just hiding that information so that you don't, if you can imagine, if you've got a 200-line schedule, you don't always want to see everything, even those items that have been completed. So we use the global filter to toggle or hide information that's perhaps not relevant anymore. Okay, so talking about Agile. Okay, there's a perception that you cannot generate a timeline view from Agile Concepts or Agile components. So I've got an Agile instance here, and I have sprints and work items configured. Just briefly, because I do see I'm keeping an eye on the time there. Just briefly, we have 2 sprints starting on the 10th and 25th of May. They're set to a duration of 2 weeks each, so I can calculate the end date. What this means, because I have a start date and an end date, I can produce some form of timeline based on those sprints. So if I go and run a project manager dashboard for our development project, you will note that we can display a flight plan. So there's our 2 sprints. We're currently in progress with this sprint, and you've guessed it, you can take all your projects that have sprints assigned to them and roll that up into portfolio views or portfolio timelines. Another item that perhaps you can generate using the Agile Concepts is that of a Kanban, so your digital sticky notes. The business architecture blueprint project is configured to use, or the schedule was done in MSP and imported into the project. I can view these tasks in a Kanban. We've just grouped them by to do, doing, overdue, and done, highlighting pieces of information like, most importantly, who's responsible, when is it starting, ending, and where are we with progress. All it takes to do a view like this is some form of status, which we can calculate if you have the rules to say when it's to do and when it's doing, when it's done, or you can manually select it. Okay, so there's some concepts, some Agile concepts that you can report on timelines. You can put tasks in a Kanban if you wanted to. And to sweeten the pot, we thought we would just demonstrate something new that's coming, and that is a new Gantt chart. So what you guys can see on screen is our new Gantt chart that we are working on. Watch this space, it's coming soon. So just a quick walkthrough or demonstration of the new Gantt chart. It's got 2 panes, a left-hand pane, which is similar to your task list page, the right-hand pane, which is your Gantt view. All right, so on the left-hand side, excuse me one second. On the left-hand side, you've got those columns that you can scroll through horizontally. You can configure these columns through the cogwheel. So if I select the cogwheel, you'll notice a different view again. And I can add in my baseline columns. So there's my end date, there's my start date. They're in the wrong order. I can sort them. I can click on save. There it's updated my view. And there's our baseline start date. Let me just scroll there. baseline start date and end date. Now on the Gantt view side, we've got the slider that controls your zoom level. This is actually, for those of you that are interested, the project that we have been running for this event. In addition, on the Gantt view side, we can configure the start date, the end date, and the progress. So just to demonstrate what that uses or how that is used, is the start date of the bar and the end date of the bar is based on our planned starts and end dates, and the progress, i.e. how much of the bar we've colored in blue, is based on actual progress. We can change the cycle type, the type, we can make it cycle or type. This just changes the view of the bars that we draw. So this is based on the type because it's a project type, a project task versus a task. The view is different. But what's really handy is our baseline start date fields that we can configure. Currently set to start date and end date of the baseline fields. All right. If we have a look at, let me just switch off the global filter there. You'll notice the bar at the bottom is your baseline dates. So in this example here, this was the original date for the task. It slipped by a couple of days, and that's where it actually went to completion. Okay, so keep an eye on the space for the changes coming through. We're constantly evolving. You probably might have noticed some differences with the filters. So we've also got widgets coming. So I thank everybody for their time today. We've got another poll that's going up just regarding how valuable, I'm losing my voice, how valuable you found the webinar on a scale of 1 to 5, just so that we can get some input from you guys for going forward in our future webinars. So I think we can hand over to some questions. By the looks of things, Taryn and Lindy have been very, very busy there. So let me quickly stop sharing. There we go.
Daniel.
Hi, this is Lindy.
It's Lindy. I think I've been able to address most of the questions. If you can just have a look at the chat, Louis Skuman has a question that I haven't answered yet, as well as Ntutsi. If we can maybe chat about those two.
Okay, so Louis Skuman, how do you reschedule uncompleted work in relation to a status date when you use Excel or tasks created manually in PPO? Reschedule uncompleted work. So when you're rescheduling uncompleted work, it would be advisable that you first have a baseline date set so that you have that ability to measure the fact that you've rescheduled it. Then what you do is you simply change your planned start and end date. What's important to be mindful of is if you're doing it manually, you need to be mindful of the impacts to other tasks. So if you have a dependency set up for this uncompleted work, and you reschedule, you change those dates, just be mindful of the impacts to the underlying tasks. If you've got your baseline date set, you'll be able to use the variance report to see we originally planned for it to be these dates, and then after the change or the reschedule, you have a new set of dates. I hope that answered your question. In Excel, the same thing, so you can change the dates if you've got the baseline date set in the project in PPO and you re-import your Excel schedule with the new dates, you'll still have your baseline start date and you'll be able to see the new start date, the planned start date. Again, be mindful of the impacts when using or when changing the dates. I hope that answered Louis' question. And then Tutsi's question, Lindy, does it mean one should manually update the project task? Okay, I think I follow where this is going. So Tutsi asking, she's asking, does it mean one should manually update the project task, planned and actual progress, unlike an MS project, where the update of the tasks automatically updates the overall project progress or project task per PPO language? Yes, you are correct. So if you are using an Excel version that has these calculations, then you'll notice, like we showed in the demonstration, when I move this to the 11th, the planned progress for this summary task and the project task update. So if you don't have that calculation in there, then you'd need to update the project task and summary task manually. Generally, what we find with Excel schedules or manually building those schedules in PPO is the amount of structure is a lot smaller. So you've alluded to it in MSP with those roll-ups. The amount of structure you put in MSP is a lot more than when you're manually creating tasks. Sometimes a manual created schedule within PPO is simply a project task encompassing the entire duration, your tasks that drive the completion, and a couple of milestones. If you are putting in summary tasks, then you would need to update those values manually. Use your project progress calculations to your advantage for your project task. So PPO will always and continuously updates or refreshes those calculations. It serves two factors. The first is you'll be able to tell if the schedule isn't being updated, because PPO will continuously tick over that calculation. The second factor is in this situation, you can actually use it to update your project task on your schedule with the values that are rolled up on the project entity calculations. Okay, I hope I answered that question too, Ntutsi. Okay, were there any other questions? I see there.
Otto has hand up.
Okay, go for it, Otto.
Hi, Daniel. Just while we were busy now, I was actually fiddling around with the add-on and all that, and then I tried to pull the resources for a project, but I ended up getting all the resources as listed and active in PPO. Is there somewhere where I neglected to tick for this project's resources? Something like that, or does it just pull in all the resources available?
It pulls in all the resources that are available. You might find, and it's beneficial because you could find that there are halfway through the project, you have a change up in your team or the resources that are available to assign to tasks. You always want to have that resource sheet covering everything rather than covering a small portion, because if it just covered a small portion, you'd have to add in manually. So we cover all bases by pulling the full employee list or a set of employees, and that way you've got freedom to select who should be working on it.
Understood. Thank you, Daniel.
Not a problem. Okay.
Question from Mbali.
Mbali. Go for it, Mbali.
Daniel, thank you. I wanted to ask, when adding tasks using the Excel sheet, right? So if I'm adding tasks on a project that already has tasks, I've seen that if maybe there's a total of 8 tasks that are already on PPO and I want to add 2 more, it will advise that it will delete the 8 that are already existing. So does this mean if I want to put in additional tasks, I should also include the ones that are already on PPO on the schedule?
Correct. So by the sounds of things, what's happening is you've imported, for example, these 15 line items and then created another 2 line items on a different file and then try to import that. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay,
that is correct.
So what's happening is, think of the file as a total piece of work, and you're giving that to the import engine, and the import engine says, I'm going to compare what's in this file to what's in PPO. At first, you're adding, so it's adding those 15 tasks. The second file that you give it is only 2 tasks. So it compares those 2 tasks to everything else in your schedule and says they don't match, so I'm going to delete everything else and only add those 2. My best suggestion is keep your Excel import file, upload it to your project as a document, and if you need to add 2 additional tasks, add it to that Excel file that you initially created. You then save as your XML data file and import it again. That way PPO will say, okay, there's 15 tasks already there that I'm going to update, and there's 2 that are missing, so I'm going to add those, instead of saying there's only 2 in your new file and the rest of them I'm going to request permission to delete.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Okay, so that brings it to a wrap. If there are any other questions, guys, I would encourage you to please start a live chat via your instance, log a ticket, or reach out to your SM. We'll be more than happy to answer questions that we didn't get to cover in today's session. I know we have run out of time, but I do just want to quickly cover a couple of things. I will share the recording to everyone who's attended, so you have access to that post the session. It will also include links to the resources that were shared via the chat, and of course, just to make you aware of our upcoming webinars that we've got. We have 2 that's upcoming. One that talks to creating resource management capability within your organization. That's coming up on the 21st of July, followed by one that talks to data quality, the what, the why, and the how. And that session is coming up on the 31st of August. I've included information about that in this PowerPoint, and it will be attached together with the recording from today's session. So thank you guys for joining, and please share whatever feedback that you think would be valuable to our team. Any questions before we close? We good? Everyone happy?
Happy. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.